Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedAlliance, and today we're doing some Ojama test hands. So I'm really excited to do this because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Tyler, and this is a awesome Ojama deck, focusing around actually locking your opponent's entire board down, which is really awesome by using cards like Ojama King, Ojama Knight, and even cards like Ground Collapse to totally lock your opponent down where they literally cannot summon to their side of the field. Is just absolutely crazy. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, just like Tyler did, for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Tyler some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such a crazy cool deck. So let's get straight on into these test hands, guys. So this deck is a very interesting deck with pretty much a 3-card combo. You're going to be able to go in and basically lock your opponent's entire board down, which is what's really cool. As long as you draw into a copy of, say, Fusion Recycling Plant, Ojama Magic, and a copy of a Trap Trick, you're pretty much going to shut down your opponent's entire board, which is a really awesome play. And if I don't draw into it, I will actually show you guys in a hand what you can actually do and just completely lock your opponent down, which is a really cool aspect of this deck. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle the deck and see what we can do for our test hands, because this deck is a really fun deck that just basically shuts the opponent entirely down. Unless they draw an out like a copy of Lightning Storm or something like a Regeki, you're basically going to shut them entirely down, which not a lot of players actually main deck those. They usually side deck them anyways, so you're basically going to have usually a first duel win because they're not going to know how to play through it, which is what's really funny about this deck, that if they don't stop it, you pretty much instantly win because you're going to be able to just OTK them and set up board. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the first hand. So we're going to draw into a copy of Necrofusion, a copy of Ojama Country, another Ojama Country, Ojama Pink, and a copy of Ojama Magic. So this is not too bad of a first turn hand. You're going to really need a copy of, say, a copy of like a Polymerization or something in your hand to be able to really pop off, but we have some plays that you can actually do. So we're actually going to just go ahead and normal summon out the copy of the Ojama Pink, and it has the ability to, if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you can activate the effect to both players, draw a card, and then each player discards a card. So we're going to use this card's effect to be able to immediately link it away on our side of the field to summon out a copy of Alamirage, because Alamirage is just a really good card to get your copy of Ojama Pink's effect off. So now at this point, we're both going to draw a card, and then we're both going to discard a card, which we actually hit the exact card we needed. And we're going to go ahead and discard the copy of Ojama Magic. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar, this card does not care about like anything. If it's sent to the graveyard from the hand or field to the graveyard, you get to add one copy of green, a yellow, and black from your deck to your hand, which is a really great effect with Polymerization because we pretty much have the ideal setup. So we're going to go ahead and add the copy of Ojama Black, the copy of Ojama Green, and the copy of Ojama Yellow to our hand, which is really awesome because we have the ideal setup, because this deck has a lot of different setups to be able to just completely shut them down, but we have one of the best ones that you can actually pull off with Ojama Country. So we're going to go ahead and add these to our hand because they just are really good cards in the hand with Polymerization. And then we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Ojama Country. Now we can go ahead and use the copy of Polymerization to then be able to fusion summon all 3 of these into a copy of Ojama King. Now once we summon this card to our side of the field, you can actually do something very interesting. So basically we're going to put a 3 on this card because we're locking down 3 of our opponent's zones. We're locking down 3 of their monster zones, which is really awesome to be able to just completely lock those down and add the Alamirage to protect our copy of Ojama King if we need to. Now, they may think, okay, I have 2 zones, I can still work with that. That's fine. We're actually going to set a card on our side of the field that's going to make it so they can. So then you can use the copy of Ojama Country that says, hey, you can send from your hand to the graveyard an Ojama card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon an Ojama card from your graveyard, and also it switches the attack and defense of your Ojama monsters, so you can even put this card in attack position if you want to, and your opponent's going to think, oh, I can deal with a 3000 attack point monster, that's fine, but they're not going to be able to. So we're going to go ahead and just use the effect of our Ojama Country to then special summon this back from our graveyard and then put it back like that. Now that we pass to the opponent, you can actually do a really hilarious play, and then during their standby phase, you can actually activate activate the effect of Necrofusion to be able to fusion summon all 3 of these monsters into another copy of Ojama King and lock down another 3 zones on the field. You can actually summon a copy of Ojama Knight if you want to, or you can just summon the Ojama King to give yourself the 3,000 attack point monster by just banishing these 3 cards from your graveyard, which is super cool to basically just completely lock down the opponent's field, because next turn, if you draw into literally any Ojama and they don't have a battle trap and they don't have any monster, they can't summon any monsters because you're locking down all 5 of their zones on their side of the field, you can basically just instantly win because you have 7,000 damage on board, because these are 3 each, this is 1,000, and then we draw for turn into a rescue cat. They can then normal summon and tribute itself to be able to summon out from the deck a copy of Ojama Blue and a copy of Ojama Red, which will get us another play to go in, because you can actually use these 2 monsters on your side of the field with the copy of the Ojama Pink to be able to go in for a copy of our Ojama where is he? Ojama Emperor. Ojama Emperor is going to summon himself to your side of the field, and when Ojama Country is on the field, he gains 3,000 attack points, so you can actually use his effect to bring back your copy of your Ojama Blue to your side of the field, because he can special summon them once per turn, but for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon anything but fusion monsters. So you actually have over 9,000 attack points on the field, and you have Ojama Blue with 1,000 additional attack, doing 10,000 damage against your opponent, and locking it down so they couldn't even summon a monster to protect themselves, which is hilarious that you can actually do plays like this in an Ojama deck. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand. As you guys can see, this deck is a really awesome deck with what it can do. The Ojama Kings are really good cards, actually, even to this day. If you can establish a Ground Collapse, a Necrofusion, or a copy of your a copy of Trap Trick to be able to activate it, you can just establish some really insanely powerful boards with this particular deck to be able to make it so your opponent literally can't summon anything. Like, if you open up these 2 in your hand plus this, you're pretty much going to be set up. I will show you guys this quick little combo with this particular deck, since all these cards were kind of together. You can actually use the copy of the Fusion Recycling Plant, discard the copy of the Ojama Magic, use the copy of the Ojama Magic and the copy of the Fusion Recycling Plant to grab all 3 of your Ojama brothers to your hand, which is the copy of the yellow, black, and green. And then your copy of the Fusion Recycling Plant will grab your copy of your Polymerization. You can then use the Polymerization again to be able to summon out your copy of Ojama King in defense position this time and activate Ground Collapse. And between these cards, your opponent literally can't normal summon at all. And then during end phase, you can actually have both of these, or one of your copies of your Ojamas back, which we're always going to add yellow back because of the show. And this card is just really good in like just having it. And pretty much you have a setup right there. Like, that was a 3-card combo to set it all up. So you'd actually have 2 additional cards in your hand, and it wouldn't even matter what it was, but if it was these 2, you could actually grab your Ojama Country, and you could normal summon this out to your side of the field to get your next Z play, or summon out your copy of one of your Ojama Emperors, or a play like that. But you pretty much just shut your opponent entirely down, which is really cool. You can actually change this card out if you want to, and actually grab a copy of Trap Trick, or a copy of Necrofusion, and then use any of these 3, which you have pretty much 9 of in the deck, to be able to get this card out to your side of the field, and then use any of these 3 to actually get the Trap Trick to the Necrofusion, and then use these 2 to either go into Night or use the Ground Collapse to completely shut it down, because you're just trying to make it so you have either 2 Ojama Kings on your side of the field, an Ojama Knight plus a King, or a Ojama King plus a Ground Collapse pretty much equals that insanely powerful board. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one, because as you guys can see, the deck is very easy to pull off, and it's hilarious to just be able to shut the opponent down and go in for those really good plays. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Polymerization, Rescue Cat, Ojama Pink, Ojama Yellow, and a copy of Necrofusion. So we have pretty much the play all over again. Like, you have the play in your hand. You can go over a copy if you want to for Ojama Knight, or you can just normal summon out the copy of Cat, and then Cat will grab the 2 pieces that you're missing, because Cat says basically that you can send this card face-up card from the field to the graveyard to then special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast monsters from the deck. Doesn't say they have to be effect monsters, they can be normal monsters, it doesn't really matter. So we're going to go ahead and grab from the deck a copy of green and black to our side of the field, and then use that copy of Polymerization to then fuse all 3 of these together to then summon out your copy of your Ojama King and set this card on your field. And your opponent's going to go, wait a minute, how am I going to, I can play through that. That's okay. I can do this. This is fine. And then they're going to be like, okay, I just have 3 zones locked down. That's fine. So we're going to go ahead and standby phase. When they draw, you're going to activate the copy of Necrofusion, fusion summon all 3 of these away, and summon out your copy of King, your second copy of King, and your opponent's going to go, oh, well, now I can't play. And then you pass turn. They pass turn because they usually don't have an out to this. Like usually you establish both of these and they're completely locked down. So we're going to go ahead and draw, and we draw into a polymerization. You can actually normal summon this out to your field, link it away, and once you link it away for that Alamirage, you can then draw a card and then discard a card, which is the poly, and then activate the copy of Country. These will both go to 3,000, and now they're a little scarier. And you can attack for 6,000 directly with these, and then draw a card for next turn, which is an Ojama Magic, which you can then send to the graveyard because it says any Ojama card. I don't think actually Ojama Magic counts. Actually, no, it does, because it says Ojama. You can actually count this one, I believe. So you can actually send Ojama Magic from your hand to the graveyard, and then it will actually let you revive back your copy of your card. But at this point, it didn't even matter to bring it back to your side of the field and search those cards, because you can just attack for game. Like, it didn't even matter at this point, because you can pretty much just get your plays rolling at that point, because you can actually just attack for game with the copy of the Ojama King. So you're totally fine to then just go swing for 1,000, swing for 3,000 each, and you didn't even have to go for the 3 copies of the Ojamas anyway. So as you guys can see, this deck is really fun. It's really easy to play. It's really fun to go into your copy of your Ojama Kings, and every single turn you're pretty much going for them. Even if you don't and you establish a copy of, say, Obedient School, you can still play with this deck to be able to go in for more plays. So we're going to go ahead and cut the deck really quick and show you guys what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and draw a copy of Ojama Green, Pink, a copy of Trap Trick, Ground Collapse, and a copy of Ground Collapse. So this is hilarious too. Ground Collapse is not a once per turn, so you can actually do some really crazy stuff and just immediately activate both of these. And now your opponent can only summon to 1 zone. That is it, 1 zone. Unless they are a Link 1 deck, they are pretty much out of luck. And you can actually use the copy of the Ojama Pink like we did before. Normal summon out of the field, and if this card is sent from the hand or field of the grave, both players can draw a card, and then both players can discard a card. So we're going to go ahead and immediately use this card. And also it has the ability that then if you discard an Ojama card, you can choose one of your opponent's unused monster zone. It cannot be used until the end of your opponent's turn. So we're going to discard the Ojama Green, and they can't summon for the next turn. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Necrofusion and discard the copy of the Ojama Green, because we actually normal summoned that card and summoned the Alamirage to link it away. So it would have been a little bit more like this would have been on your field, this would have been on the top of the deck, and you would have done more of this number, where you would have normal summoned, link summoned, sent this to grave, drawn, discarded this to the graveyard, and then had this set up. And then we're going to set both of these on our side of the field, and then our copy of Ojama Pink says, hey, you can't have any of your zones at all. So we have all 5 of our opponent's monster zones locked down. Like every single one of them is totally locked down. They can't use any of their monster zones, and they pass to us. We can actually do some really neat plays here, because you can actually activate the copy of Trap Trick to kind of mill through the deck a little bit, so you don't actually draw into a copy of Necrofusion, because you really don't want to hit another one. So we're going to go ahead and use this and be able to set one on our side of the field, and then we're going to shuffle up the deck, because you really don't want to open up more than what you already have. And we're going to go ahead and banish this copy of the Necrofusion and activate this one on the field. And then once we activate this one on the field, you're going to go ahead and banish these 2 monsters from the graveyard, and we're going to summon out the copy of our Ojama Knight, which is just going to help us out to give us an additional monster on the field. And then you basically pass turn. Back to me, I draw, and we're going to draw into an Ojama Country, activate that copy of Ojama Country, switch this guy to attack position, and do 2,500. And then we pass back again. They still have 4 of their zones locked down, so we're going to draw. We're going to normal summon out the copy of the Ojama Red to our side of the field, swing again, draw again. We draw on a pink, normal summon the pink, and then you just keep swinging until finally they have nothing left, because the double ground collapse, because they just can't do anything through the ground collapses unless they have like a Harpy's Feather Duster. Because I will say from personal experience and all the decks I build, not a lot of decks right now are playing back row. Like they don't deal with back row very well. Occasionally you'll see a Feather Duster in a main deck, but other than that, like, they still have to draw the Feather Duster, and the only deck that this deck auto loses to right now is Harpies, which is really hilarious, because you can actually play this against Harpies, and the Ojamas are on Harpy hunting ground, which is really, really funny. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can do for the next one. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle the deck up, and let's see if we can actually pull off another one of those insanely good plays. So we're going to go ahead and draw. We're going to draw into an Ojama Pink, a Fusion Recycling Plant, a copy of Ojama Country, which is a little bit weird because we have 2 field spells, Ojama Blue and another Ojama Blue, which is okay. This is a hand that's totally fine. You can still play in this hand, and it's still got some really good plays because we can actually just activate the copy of our Fusion Recycling Plant. I kind of want to draw first because I don't mind drawing into the copy of another card. So we're just going to go ahead and normal summon this out to our side of the field and link it away again, because you can just normal summon it out for the copy of the Alamirage. I'm not worried about it. If I draw into a poly, I can still use it. So we're going to go ahead and activate that copy, just see what else we can get, and we get an Ojamagic. Okay, that's pretty good. So you can actually use the Ojamagic here, and you can actually discard it off the Fusion Recycling Plant, and we're going to draw into a copy of green, a copy of black, and a copy of, let's see, that was actually the ideal thing that we could have gotten. That is awesome. This deck loves me. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck, and we're going to see what we can do. We're going to shuffle it up. I guess it might be because I have DarkArmedDragon as like the mascot of the channel, and it's kind of like Chaz's card, and this is kind of Chaz's deck, so maybe it's just fitting. So we're actually going to grab all these, and we're going to grab the copy of the Polymerization from our deck to our hand off the copy of the Fusion Recycling Plant. And now you can use the copy of Poly, and we're actually going to just use that with these 3 monsters, and we're going to summon out our Ojama King. Now the only downside to this is we don't have all of the necessary pieces because we have only 4 of their zones locked down, because we did discard an Ojama card for the copy. Actually, we didn't discard an Ojama card. Now we discarded an Ojama card because we discarded the copy of Ojama Blue for the copy of the pink. So now they have 4 of the zones locked down with this particular play, and we have the copy of Ojama Country, but at end phase, you can actually use the effect of the Fusion Recycling Plant to grab back your copy of your Ojama Yellow. The only downside of this is we don't have Necrofusion to make a copy of Night. We still have good plays, but we kind of just stop here because you don't want to do anything else to like make it so you can't go in for more plays later. So we're going to go ahead and pass, and then we're going to draw against our opponent, and we're going to draw into a Terraforming, which will then activate, because they're only going to have like 1 zone left that they can even use until this turn. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a copy of Ojama Country, and then I'm going to use the copy of Ojama Country to discard to be able to grab another copy of Polymerization. Now keep in mind at this point they can use 3 of the zones. If they didn't use the zones, or we activate the copy of Ojama Country and we make it so they can't use the zones anymore, to be able to then turn this card to attack position, use the copy of Polymerization, summon out, actually don't summon it out yet, swing for attack to be able to get rid of a monster in their zone. Then during main phase 2, use the copy of Polymerization with these 2 cards on our side of the field, and summon out a copy of our Ojama Knight to be able to then lock them completely down. If you can get rid of all of their monsters, you can then completely lock them down, and they have no zones that they can actually use. If the copy of Ojama King can swing through the 1 monster that they potentially could normal summon on their side of the field, you can then basically deal with them. And the majority of the time, I will say, not a lot of players are going to be able to normal summon something that can get through an Ojama King on the first play with only 1 monster zone available. So you probably would still have this swing through that monster, main phase 2 summon this, and then you would have pretty much the game set because you'd be able to lock down the other 2 zones that your opponent cannot use anymore. So this deck is a really good deck. As you guys can see, it's very consistent in summoning out your copies of your Ojama Kings. You're pretty much doing it every single game. Like, it's to a ridiculous level that you're actually locking your opponent down. I really love the way that this deck plays. It's a hilarious deck to be able to just do that and be able to just completely lock your opponent down. As you guys can see, even drawing a hand like this, you're still got really good plays where you can just normal summon out the copy of your Ojama Red, which is just going to special summon out your 2 other copies of your Ojamas, and then activate the copy of Ojama Country, set the copy of Trap Trick, and then you can link all 3 of these to the graveyard and summon out your copy of your Ojama Emperor, which is just going to get you another copy of red to your side of the field, which is just going to give you even more plays on your side of the field to be able to have a little bit more defensive plays. And then you can also use the copy of Trap Trick during your opponent's turn to then banish these 2 and banish your copy of your Necrofusion. Actually, we'll go like this. Let's do it properly. We'll go ahead and banish out our copy of the Necrofusion, and then we'll set a copy of Necrofusion to our side of the field. The copy of the Trap Trick will then go to the graveyard, and then you can activate the copy of the Necrofusion to be able to banish both of your Ojama monsters now, and then summon out an Ojama Knight to lock down 2 of the zones, which is just going to help you out a little bit more over the game. This would be better if it was a blue, I will say, because then you can, if they destroy this by battle, I'll get a double search. But if we draw on the next turn, we're going to get an Obedience School and would still be okay. The Obedience School, I will say, is a little bit crazy too, because it's going to be able to special summon out your copies of your effect monsters to then get you into some Link 2s and get you into some XZ plays. The only downside to Obedience School is it says you actually have to summon them out effect monsters. You can't special summon out normal monsters, which is a little bit of a downside, because originally I was going to try and use Obedience School plus Delta Hurricane to be able to just completely board wipe the opponent, but with this card you can't actually summon out the normal monsters, which is the only downside to playing this deck, which is not that big of a downside. You still have the lock that you can establish, which is hilarious for this deck. And if you guys would like to check out the deck profile for this one, it is down in the description down below. If you guys would like to check it out, it is a really fun deck. It's not super expensive. As you guys saw, I didn't use all that many Link monsters in the deck. It's pretty much just the Ojama cards. As you go deeper into the game, you will summon more Link monsters, but you can kind of change out the deck a little bit if you want to make it budget, because the main deck is actually very budget. So anyways, guys, this is Dark Arm Duels. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely give Tyler some love down in the comments down below for requesting this absolutely crazy awesome deck. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.